What's up, everybody? Tanner Larsson here, and welcome back to the Optimized Ecommerce Podcast. Very excited to have you join us again, and just love doing these episodes. But today we are joined by a repeat guest and member of the Build, Grow, Scale family, Mr. Igor Silva, or if those of you guys who are in the BGS community, you guys know him as Agent Igor, right? So Igor was actually started out as a coaching student of mine a long time ago. That's how we met. Came to one of my events, actually a funnel workshop, and showed me some stuff that he was doing for a client site, because he used to have a big web development agency doing local clients and funnels and all kinds of stuff, and but doing an e-com funnel, and the funnel was freaking awesome, and it was way advanced for the time, and that kind of he caught my eye. And then as we were building out the Build, Grow, Scale infrastructure, Igor was transitioning a little bit into more of e-com focus, and we said, hey, we need someone to be the tech expert for e-commerce for our people, and we want you to be that guy. And that's, I don't know how many years now he's been there, but I mean, it's 4 years, 5 years.
I would say almost 6 years.
Yeah, is it 6? Okay, it's a long time. And within our ecosphere, he's become known as Agent Igor, right? And he handles our Tech Tuesday calls and our Ecom Insider members, which is free tech help for your Shopify stuff. He also builds a lot of stores for our members, and he's basically rebuilt his business with all of his developers and his team, all trained by BGS with BGS methodology. And he fulfills a service to all Ecom Insider and Build, Grow, Scale customers. And that's his world. And couldn't be happier to have him there. But he's also a rock star because he knows his stuff and he works with us and he's got all the info. So he gets to see a lot of sites just like we do. He works on them at a different level than we do. And some of the more iterative type stuff for building out new stores and theme upgrades and stuff like that. So what I'm excited to talk to you guys today with him about and have him share with you is this whole OS 2.0 for Shopify, right? Shopify rolled this out. It was kind of a big deal. And then it kind of turned into, we don't know what's going on. They haven't been great about updates. Nobody knows, like, I have a 1.0 store. Does that going to work? Do I automatically get a 2.0 store? Do I have to rebuild my store? What is 2.0? Do I need it? There's so much uncertainty and just lack of clarity around it. I kind of feel like Shopify kind of butchered their rollout of this platform. But it is the new thing. It is going to be adapted more and more. So I wanted to have Igor come on here to talk about it, because not only does he know, but he's actually built a theme from scratch that our Ecom Insider members use, and then taken that theme from 1.0 and upgraded it to full 2.0 functionality. So he's uniquely qualified to talk about this. So Igor, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me again. And it's a pleasure to, come in here and share a little bit of what I've been learning since Shopify released that update. And, it's just exciting to be chatting again with you and seeing what's up. And of course, adding value to the listeners and, getting some feedback as well.
Absolutely. So, like I said, Igor has been neck deep in 2.0, and our developers with the BGS have been doing the same thing as well, upgrading all of our amplified partner stores to 2.0. And, but there's a lot of kind of, like, again, not so much misinformation, but just lack of information and clarity about what OS 2.0 is and why do I need it or do I not, or what happens if I don't upgrade and all of that. So let's go ahead and dive into that a little bit. And I'd say let's start, Igor, with what is OS 2.0 for Shopify?
Yeah, that's a great way of kicking it off. And, let's just go back to the basics, because online store 2.0, it's what stands for. It's basically one of the most significant updates that we've seen coming from Shopify forever. Mm-hmm. It literally gives us so many doors, so many opportunities for us to, when I say for us, I'm talking about developers as well as store owners, so basically Shopify went ahead and rebuilt everything from scratch. So the whole experience is fresh, so that literally gives us a lot of flexibility as developers to customize a storefront with a ton of different developer tools that they also released. So of course, a cool thing that you won't have to do anything about is that, once Shopify released it, all of those features have been already applied to your account. So you're not going to need to basically do anything to get the core foundation of what OS 2.0 is. It's already embedded into your account. Mm-hmm. So all the themes that were developed under the old system, they are already compatible with OS 2.0. Of course, that in the near future, Shopify will likely deprecate, OS 1.0. But
so I would explain deprecate, because it's a technical term, and what do people mean when you say deprecate? Because that's actually a scary thing when it happens.
It is. And I'm happy that you stopped me there, because, sometimes I'm in my technical babble and it's important for me to dissect it a little more. So deprecate in this case is when a technology becomes obsolete. And, with the insertion of this new technology, what happens is that, at some point, Shopify will have to throw it away and say, you guys are going to have to use what's new, and this is our new way of doing things. So, forget about it. But I wouldn't worry much about my statement right now, because, OS 2.0 is very new. And of course, they're going to give us a lot of leeway for us to not only develop new themes, but also new apps and, revamp our stores and so on and so forth. So up until they get to that point of deprecation, I believe that a lot of water will go under the bridge, so I wouldn't worry much about this. Which literally takes me to the next step, because it's like, I could say, let's just go everyone switch it up to OS 2.0. And that's not the reality, you don't necessarily have to, as I said, worry about it. And once you literally go ahead and just flip the switch, migrate to OS 2.0 right away, just because Shopify came up with it, especially as we are in Q4 right now.
Yeah, this is not the time to change anything.
Yeah, definitely.
Guys, just real quick on that, Q4, you don't screw around. Unless you are still building and trying to get things ready to go for Q4, then okay, obviously you're doing something. But if you already have an operating store and everything else, you put a dev freeze through Q4. We don't, in our amplified stores, we're doing iterative testing all the time, we do not test, tweak, change anything through Q4. What we do is we systematize and we keep dialing things in. We work on support, making sure nothing breaks, anything like that, and just facilitating the flow of Q4, because the worst thing you can do in Q4 is start screwing with your theme.
Yep. And, definitely moving from OS 1.0 to OS 2.0 is a huge step.
Yeah.
And, as we're going through holiday season, we're literally in the middle of it. We're going to see a huge bump in sales and traffic and all that stuff from this point forward. And we don't want to go ahead and play around with this and, just launch something that we're unable to keep track of, or, we're likely to mess around and have a negative result. So, if my take would be, let's plan to make flipping that switch by, Q1, Q2, so we can easily go into it and, of course, test it all out,
Yep, absolutely. Now, what you mentioned something about flipping a switch, but I want to clarify, there is absolutely no switch, right? It's actually not there's no easy way to upgrade to 2.0. The easiest way is to literally upload a new theme and build your store from scratch. But there's no way to currently inside your dashboard, update your existing 1.0 theme and have it turn into a 2.0 theme, right?
Well, when I say flip the switch, yes, it would be great to have a light switch, as simple as that.
Upgrade process. They don't really have a process so much as taking a 1.0 theme to a 2.0, correct?
Well, they give you some guidelines on what you do, but they don't necessarily take you by the hand and say, okay, this is what you really need to do.
Now, can they give you a guide, do it, or does it have to be a dev?
Yes, it has to be a dev. It's
not making it user friendly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not a simple task to accomplish. It requires a lot of time. because you can make adjustments to your 1.0 theme versions to be, like to have the new abilities that the OS 2.0 has, but it requires some coding knowledge and, a lot of time as well.
Yeah, I know we just did one for one of our AMP stores, and it was the first phase of it was 30 hours. It was 30. We were documenting 30 hours of dev time just to upgrade the store, and that didn't include bug checking, testing iteratives, or anything like that. It was just the initial thing. So I mean, that's a pretty hefty expense.
It is, and if you decide to go the other way around and rebuild the theme from scratch using OS 2.0. then those 30 hours can turn into 300 hours easily.
Correct. Especially if you have a really customized theme already. Now, if you have a stock theme and you haven't really done much to it, switching over may not be as detrimental to you, or may be fairly easy. But if you, like most stores, you've done a lot of customizations to it, none of that stuff transfers when you switch themes.
True. And the good thing about this whole process is that at least Shopify gave us a good direction on, a good role model, let's put it that way. Because as part of the 1.0 version of Shopify's online store, we used to have the debut theme, We all knew that, right? So, how many times we went ahead and utilized it, or seen someone using it on their stores. And as of now, the new theme that we're using as a role model to model over every single thing that is OS 2.0 related is called Dawn. So, so they, throughout the process of launching OS 2.0, they just said, okay, here's the Dawn theme, go check it out and model over it. So, even though it's very helpful, but at the same time, it's not the easiest, easiest task to handle, I would say.
So we've established kind of that it's a little bit complex and time intensive to upgrade. You're going to need a developer, but let's talk about the benefits or if there's any cons to it. But what are the main benefits of OS 2.0 for a store owner? Why would they want to be on 2.0?
Okay. So Shopify hammered a lot on the concept of sections everywhere. And that means, that's all related to this new store design experience, right? So basically, let me just relate back to what OS 1.0 was, so we can understand it a little easier. So if you go to the theme editor inside of your Shopify account, you would see in there that you have sections, which is usually positioned on the left-hand side of your screen. So everything would be broken down by sections, and with the vast majority of those sections would only be used on the homepage. With sections everywhere, you can literally just slice out some of those sections that are being utilized on the homepage to be used on a product page or a collection page or an about us page. So you can literally just pick and choose whatever section you want to use across other pages, and achieve the similar effect that you would have before. So, basically with the 1.0 version, in order to do that thing, would basically need to either utilize apps or hard code heavily. So we would have to put a lot of hours into developing those capabilities onto other pages. And I believe that Shopify has been listening to what people are actually in need of, because that's not a good usability for, for their system. So basically, they've just been giving that whole range of opportunities for not only the store owners, but also the developers to have an easier job on their hands, right? So I believe that that's the biggest benefit that we're going to see, aside from, of course, having a technology that is focused on speed, which is huge. And it's literally related to the bottom line of the company.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the speed and everything else. Now the sections, from what, I guess my personal favorite aspect of the 2.0 rollout is the modular drag and drop ability to build out pages and create templates and all of that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes. So Shopify up until now have relied, well, I would say up until June or July, they've relied heavily on liquid code. So what we're seeing now is this migration into relying heavily into JSON code, which will, in return allows us to, create different sections for separate pages, create multiple template files that allow us to have. So let's say you have a landing page for a product, and you decide to, along with that landing page, you want to create 4 different variations or 5 different variations of that specific landing page. You can create that a lot easier now because JSON is the technology that is backing the whole Shopify system. So it allows the developers, of course, to create that and not spend a lot of time into such creations, and of course, it will help with your bottom line across the board as well, because you're not going to have to invest a lot of money into developing such solutions.
Absolutely. Now, another piece of OS that has a lot of people stressing out and they're asking, because we've seen some issues with it, is OS 2.0 and the 7 gazillion apps that you have on your store, on your 1.0 store. How does that work?
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you asked, because they've come up with a solution that is related to apps, and they call it app blocks. And basically, as of now, the apps integrate seamlessly with the themes. So in a sense, let me break the news. There's no more need for developers to build, custom logic, so let's say you have those gazillion apps that you want to implement into your store. You no longer need to, rely on a developer to implement those apps, because a lot of them require you to go ahead and, get this snippet of code and copy it from the back end of the app, and then go inside of the themes file and paste it in there. So they're literally removing that friction completely. So you're not going to need to touch on the code anymore. So basically, they're allowing the development to bring that ease right into the theme editor. So right from the theme editor, you're going to be able to add apps, remove apps, or even edit those apps right from there. So one huge thing that is about apps that they released, and I found it to be incredible, because that's how it's also related to speed improvement, is that the uninstalls are a lot cleaner now.
Yes, which is a big deal. So talk about that for a second. Like an uninstall on 1.0, what happens?
So uninstall in 1.0, yes. So uninstalls in 1.0 would be basically like the store owner or the developer goes into the apps tab and then decide which app they want to remove, and then they'll remove it. Well, the vast majority of the, store owners, they believe that nothing else happens afterwards, and they forget that there is a whole, it differs from one app to another, but there is a lot of trash code that's left inside of the code. Once you
turns the app off, but it doesn't actually remove everything that it injected.
So on OS 1.0, basically what happened was that you would go to your apps tab, and then if you decide to delete your app, you would just go ahead and delete it, and then you would forget that inside of the code there were some a few different lines of code that were injected as part of the installation of that app. And the vast majority of store owners, they don't realize that once they delete the app, they need to go ahead and clean up the code. Okay, so with OS 2.0, what's happening is that by what I said, uninstalls are a lot cleaner now. is that part of the issue is basically solved. So, like from inside of your theme editor, let's say you decide to remove your app, and then, OS 2.0 will take care of that solution. Well, let me just bring something up here that I found it as I've been studying about this for quite some time now. I found it something quite interesting, because I feel like Shopify has been following us at BGS at some point, because this functionality of allowing the users to play around with apps right from the theme editor is already a functionality that the super theme has had for over a year now.
Yep. Now the super theme, guys, in case you're not aware, is the super custom theme that Igor built for the BGS community. And it's a full custom theme. And so all the stuff that kind of 2.0 was rolling out were things that he identified early on. And actually the first real rollout was 2019 of a lot of the functionality that Shopify 2.0 is just now coming out with.
Yes, indeed. So it was just fun to watch. And I'm like, okay, yes, we're right on the, on top of it. And I'm so happy to see that they are also applying that, because they turned it up a notch.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And, they needed, it was time for them to update, and like their platform was good, but it was definitely not cutting edge, and they need to stay cutting edge and everything. So, all right. I know we talked a little bit about, the new updates to the content management system. Was there anything else about that you wanted to add?
Yes, because there's also something that is huge, and it's related to meta fields. And for those of you,
what is a meta field?
Meta field, yes, meta fields. Excuse me. And basically, for those of you who don't know what meta fields are, it's up until this migration from 1.0 to 2.0, if we needed to add any sort of information to the product page. So let's say that you have in a specific sizing chart that you want to add just to 2 or 3 variations of that product specifically. So, and then for the other set of 2 or 3 variations, you would have a different sizing chart or some other information. Uh-huh. Well, basically, in order to do that, Shopify prior to 2.0 didn't have that capability. So we needed to utilize third-party apps to allow us to inject that piece of code in there and customize the products. So, as part of this update, Shopify made that default in the system. So there's no more need to utilize apps. They also added something called the file picker that is, integrated with the meta fields. And what the file picker does is to allow you to utilize, all the assets, like whether that is images or videos, directly from your library. Mm-hmm. So, and to top it off, so we need to circle back to the theme editor, because this is a huge thing inside of the theme editor, and it is definitely fully integrated with it. So basically adding content to your product pages, in a sense, it's no longer a nightmare. It's a lot easier now, because you're not going to need to add, you're not going to need to use apps or any sort of API connections or anything like that. To make that so that's huge. Mm-hmm. So that would be the next thing that I would say that literally caught my eyes throughout this whole process.
Is there anything that you would say is a con or a negative about 2.0?
That it's new.
Yeah, I would have to say that too. I think in my head, I would, if I had to pick 2 things, I would say that it's new. We don't know exactly how it's all going to work out or what bugs we're going to pop into, but also is that there is no streamlined, easy upgrade process for the average store owner to be able to utilize. Shy of starting over.
100%.
So yes, to clarify that, guys, there's 2 things you have options to do right now if you want to go to 2.0. take a 2.0 theme and rebuild your store, or hire a developer who knows how to do it right to do the 2.0 upgrade to your theme.
Exactly.
And it's not as cut and dried as just, a Fiverr dev or anything like that. Like, you need someone who knows, because especially if you have custom code in your theme or any kind of customizations, all of that has to be handled line by line. It's not I just adjust the big things and it's done, right? So those are the two things you have to be aware of. But Igor, so we've talked about all the 2.0 stuff, OS 2.0. We've got a lot of, obviously, EI members who you were talking with yesterday on Tech Tuesday, and updating them about the new theme and the upgrades and all of that stuff. So why don't you tell us a little bit about OS 2.0 version of the Vasta super theme?
Yes, that's something really exciting for us. I mean, I'm glad that you asked what will be the cons. And the new part of it is what actually made me create a lot of resistance when I first heard from Shopify launching this new update. But at the same time, it created a lot of opportunity for us to reinvent ourselves as professionals, in how we see e-com. Because OS 2.0 is just the beginning of what Shopify is going to bring about in the near future. And we can talk a little bit about this in a few, but what the super theme brings, of course, that utilizes Dawn as the role model. So we literally dissected Dawn, which is the theme that I mentioned, the default theme I mentioned earlier.
That Shopify built and gives for free to everybody.
Exactly. So basically, we dissected that whole thing to understand. So we have an X-ray of what Dawn really is, and then we're like, okay, how can we apply every single aspect of Dawn to the super theme? So, the biggest thing that I believe that Shopify released was a piece of data that they said that Dawn is literally 35% faster than debug. So, the first thing in my mind was like, okay, the super theme is already fast.
Yeah, you spent a lot of time working on that.
We spent a lot of time into it, and by the time that we work on it, once we see that improvement in 35% or more, whatever it is, I mean, that's a huge plus, right? So so basically we're bringing all of those features to the community. We're making sure that the members can utilize that at their fingertips and have the ease to play around not only with performance, but also to have the ability of not relying as much on the developer. Of course that, you always need a developer to build some complex things and this and that. But, the premise of the super theme is to help the e-commerce entrepreneur to literally give them the ability of play around with this, play around with the theme at ease without having any sort of, bad feelings about, the developer that they've been hiring. So in a sense, what the super theme brings to the table, that I was talking a lot about yesterday during the call, we have all the features that Online 2.0 gave us. Of course, that he also gave us a whole lot of flexibility to implement several customizations, several optimizations that are coming from the RO team a lot easier. So we're going to be for the next few months, and I was even talking about this yesterday. For the next few months, we're committed to go ahead and implement a lot of those things, because a lot of those optimizations that they've been releasing, because it's become a lot easier for us to build them. And of course to distribute them amongst different templates, whether that is from homepage, collection, product page, so on and so forth. So we have a lot more. So we're designing this with the intent of having way more flexibility than normal. And of course, that also on the flip side, we want to minimize complexity. So that's the main goal. And with that said, how can I minimize complexity? So I can give you an example. Beforehand, I would have on the 1.0 version of the theme, we would have to utilize external libraries for HTML, CSS. Let's just go simple. So basically we would be in the theme linking out to all of these sources and bringing some information from those sources so we can
provide the added functionality.
Yes.
Well, which that's an issue for speed because you're making outbound calls.
Exactly, 100%. So with this new process, what we're going to be able to do is to create some semantic markup that is literally like embedded and organized inside of the code itself. So that's a huge plus. I mean, I know that it might sound like I'm speaking Greek here for a second, but it's just like if you can make a quick comparison is, embedding such functionality on the theme versus bringing that functionality from an external source that you have no capability of, editing whatsoever. So that's basically the differentiation that I'm trying to bring here. Mm-hmm. So we're going to bring a lot throughout this process. We're going to bring a lot of performance, versatility, like usability, user experience. Like we're taking all of those features that come from 2.0 and just kind of, showering our members with those things. I'm so excited about it.
No, it's going to be great because the super theme originally, guys, if you don't know, I mean, a lot of you do, but it was built because in Ecom Insider in our programs, we would teach all the optimizations that we do and show people how to do them, but they didn't have the developer skills necessary to implement all of them. So Igor took it upon himself to build a theme that has all of our best practices already built into it. And of course, to take to the next level, you'd still have to do some dev work on some of the more custom type stuff, but all that basic every time optimization stuff was built in. And now what he's saying is a lot of that more complex optimization stuff that we weren't able to do except for on a case-by-case basis is now also built in. So reduces your dev cost and increases your ability to just get stuff done quicker, which is obviously the get shit done, GSD right back there is what we stand for.
That's right. That is right.
Pretty exciting stuff. Again, now I know people are always going to ask, so I'll just clarify, you cannot buy this theme. It is only available to the members of our community. It is not something that is available on a store or like Igor built it for the BGS family. So once you join the BGS family, you'll get it. So on top of that though, guys, this was really just a primer on OS 2.0 and giving you guys kind of a feel and a vibe on what do you need to expect or whatever. If you have questions, have comments on that kind of stuff, post them. If you're on, leave a review, post a comment below the video, send it in to us, let us know. We'll do another episode. Always like to have Igor on here so you can always talk. We can go way deeper onto this as it rolls out. Maybe next time we could even hop on and do some screen sharing and he can show you some of the cool features and functionalities of like what 2.0 brings to the table. But for now, we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. Igor, thank you so much for being here. Guys, as you're listening right now, if you're not subscribed, WTF, like seriously, like over a year of this podcast, you're listening, you're not subscribed, like you're hurting my little feelers here. So click the subscribe button, whether you're on iTunes or Spotify or whatever you're listening to, Stitcher, do that. And then if you're not watching and subscribe to the YouTube channel, make sure you're over there. These are also video podcasts, so you can get them on this YouTube channel, as well as all the other training content that we release on a daily and weekly basis. So all the links you need are at buildgrowscale.com/podcast. And with that, we will see you guys in the next episode.